Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the American Dream in the Eyes of Immigrants podcast. And before we get into the episode, I have a huge announcement for the podcast. The podcast is now an officially two-time award-winning podcast. Yes, the podcast has actually won another award, and this time it was the Women Who Podcast Magazine Award. And the podcast won third place for the category Service to Others. And what was so cool about this award was actually that it was a panel of judges who actually voted and decided, the winners. And so there was first, second, and third place for each categories. And I submitted the podcast for Service of Others, and I submitted a little clip of episode with Sandy Dang, who had the nonprofit organization to help refugees. And so I submitted a clip of her episode, and yeah, the podcast won third place. So, oh my goodness, it's so crazy to say that, but yes, the American Dream in the Eyes of Immigrants podcast is officially a two-time award-winning podcast. And again, thank you so much for supporting. Thank you so much for being here week after week, and enjoy today's episode. Welcome to the American Dream in the Eyes of Immigrants podcast. I am your host, Heidy De La Cruz, and I am on the mission to change the narrative of immigration, one immigrant story at a time. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the American Dream in the Eyes of Immigrants podcast. I am your host, Heidy De La Cruz, and today I have a very special guest. I have Attorney Saman with us today. And you probably follow her on Instagram or on TikTok, and you've seen her, be very open and honest about immigration and the process and everything. And so I reached out and she said yes to being on the podcast. And I'm so excited that you are here. Thank you so much. And if you could just introduce yourself, even though I just did a little bit, but who you are, what you do, and then we can get started with childhood.
Well, thank you so much, Heidi. Yes, my name is Saman Movassaghi Gonzalez. I am an immigration attorney. I've been practicing immigration law now for a little bit over 21 years, and I decided a few years ago to share what I do on social media. And that in of itself has been quite a journey. Very exciting, some highs, some lows, but just rolling with the punches on what happens in the alternative universe of social media. All in all, it's been a great blessing for me. And I'm an immigration attorney. I love what I do. I'm here to help spread information, try to, go ahead and let people know what's really going on in the world of immigration, share people's stories, successes, highs and lows. And I'm here to talk about how I got to this place. So thank you so much for having me.
Yes, and definitely within you sharing on social media, I definitely want to get into that a little bit later because there's a lot of people who struggle with that, just with any type of business that's out there, just struggling. So I definitely want to get into that a little bit later. So you also have a book, so we definitely want to talk about that. I was able to read the book before doing this interview, which was really interesting. What an incredible story you have. So if you could let us know. So from your book, I learned that you grew up in Texas with immigrant parents from Iran. So I honestly did not even know your parents were from Iran. So I thought that was really cool. So if you could just tell us a little bit about growing up, in Texas.
Sure.
Yeah.
So my parents came to the United States in the 70s before the Iranian Revolution happened in their country. And they came to the U.S. On student visas, also with the aspiration to honestly get their education and return back to their country. At the time, there were a lot of political changes happening with their own country. And my father was given employment opportunities, and he was actually sponsored for his green card and my mom's green card through the Texas Department of Transportation. That's how they become lawful permanent residents. And he was stationed in East Texas in a small town called Lufkin, where he was a civil engineer for TxDOT. And my older brother, myself, I have a younger sister, and we were all born and raised in East Texas. We definitely knew, at least I definitely could recognize at a very young age that we were not necessarily from East Texas, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
But I didn't really know where we were from. I just knew we were
Mm,
not from where we were living at.
okay.
Um, but it wasn't until, I became older, or even our first trip that we went to the Middle East when I was about 5 years old, that I recognized that this is actually where my parents come from, not
Wow.
from the little small town in East Texas where we live. So it was always being very much aware of two different universes that I was part of, and essentially not really struggling with, but at the moment, I think during my childhood, just being aware of it.
Yeah, yeah, that's the oh my gosh, yeah. And so talk to us about that trip, like what you remember, right? Because you're 5 years old, but, like, just having that awareness, like,
We
"Okay,
stayed
this
there
is."
for several months,
Yeah,
and I went with my mom, my older brother, and my younger sister. And I remember my mom actually took us out of school. It was around March of, I would say, 1986. And that actually happened to be the most deadly year in terms of the war between Iran and Iraq that was happening.
yeah.
So we went into a literal war zone during that time period. But my
Wow.
mom was very homesick, and she wanted to be with her family, and her parents were there, her brothers, her sister. So it was a decision that was made. We went over there. We stayed there for several months. You don't really, again, you're around adults, but you don't really know what the adult issues are.
Yeah.
But you are aware that things are different here than they are from where you're from, right? And at the moment, I'm from East Texas, but I'm realizing that I may actually be from another place.
Mhm.
So, the dress was different, the language was different, the food was different, the culture was different. Even them being in, even the country itself being in a time of war, there were times we had to go hide in the bunker because there was bombings happening. So there was a lot of tension happening in the country itself, and to be around that type of tension was a very, very different experience than what I was used to in the quiet, very quiet, calm East Texas,
Mhm.
in Lufkin, where we were living at. So it's definitely a trip that, even though I was so young, there's still a lot of vivid memories I have of it.
Yeah, of course. I mean, going into, like you said, a war zone, and there's just the difference between where you were in Texas and being there. And actually, reading your book was actually how I learned about the Iranian Revolution. Like, I had no idea. So then, like, I'm like googling and like finding out like what happened and everything. And so, and then I know that that also sparked the kind of like a change in your mom as well, from what I read.
Right. So that was definitely, the history of what happened in Iran
Mhm.
goes back all the way, honestly, to like the 1950s, 1960s, when they wanted to nationalize oil. Oil is a big production and commodity in Iran, and there was always a back and forth between the United States, United Kingdom, and Iran when it came to that commodity. Ultimately, when the revolution happened in 1979 and it lasted for several months, it came out of that a theocracy,
Mm.
right? It came out of that almost a religious revolution. Even though people in the country were unhappy with the monarchy, they all gravitated towards the theocratical side of it because that offered more hope than the current situation that they
Mm.
were in. They may not have necessarily been religious or had a crystal ball to know what was going to
Yeah.
happen, but they gravitated towards that. And my mom, my family was always in Texas. She left Iran when it was not a theocracy, when it was actually a
Yeah.
monarchy. So she never lived under that theocratical government. But once it did spark something in her, along with really the divorce with my father. When my parents divorced, my mother did really gravitate towards having religious healing during that time period.
Yeah.
She used to say I could go to the bar or the mosque, and I choose to go to the mosque. So
Aw.
that was something that once she did become very religious, obviously that resonated with us as her kids, and we also was exposed to religion. So now our culture shifted from being Iranian American per se to now being Muslim American. So that was
Mm.
our primary culture, was that you're Muslim first, and then you are, let's say, your nationality or ethnicity or whatnot. So that was something that was really ingrained in us as well.
Yeah, and you also talk in the book about, the experiences that you had, like, unfortunate experiences from wearing your hijab when you were younger and teenage years and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I started wearing the hijab when I was really young, really young. Yeah, I mean, I actually put it on when I was about 7, and I
Yeah.
put in the book 9, but I put it on when I was 7 and 8 because I would wear it sporadically and then I would take it off.
Yeah.
But I kept it on permanently when I was 9, and it was something that was, I did it with my mother, so I
Mhm.
obviously had a lot of support. My father was very much against it. He did not like it at all. He did not like what it represented and from where it came from, especially from the things that were going on in Iran.
Yeah.
So it was just a totally different perspective. But I wore it for many, many years, and I wore it, growing up in North Texas as well. So it was a shock for a lot of people to meet me. They a lot of times thought that I didn't speak English. They thought I had
Mm.
just arrived to the US. They didn't accept me as being a Texan or as an American
Yeah.
or as anybody within the system because I look different. I had so many incidences with people that honestly at this point I think I tend to just block out because
Yeah.
it just happens so much. And, you hear about people being discriminated and being racist, but you really don't know that's like when it's happening in you on constantly happening. And I feel that word a little bit gets diluted
Mm.
with somebody saying a word and then you're a racist. No, have somebody come up to you and tell you comments or try to pull off your scarf or be physical with you or throw things at you. Or this is the type of experiences that, I have dealt with and throughout my college to teen and
Yeah.
young adolescent years by being visibly Muslim.
Yeah, oh my god. Well, I'm so sorry that you experienced that, and I was reading it, and I was just like, "Oh my gosh, people really can be just so." I wanna say ignorant because I really feel like that's where it stems from, just, like, the ignorance of not knowing and things and just judging, just by just having your hijab, and just that yeah. So I appreciate you sharing those stories that you shared in there and just like what you went through because it does bring a lot of awareness of, your story, what you went through and things like that. And it's just like, yeah, I was just like, man, I can't even imagine like and like what you said about the whole racism thing is like people, throw that around, but it's like it's so different when you're experiencing it. And sometimes you don't even know you're experiencing it until afterwards and you're like, "Did that just happen?" Because that's what happened to me when I was younger, like, there was an incident, and I had no idea what was going on until, like, afterwards, like, it was explained to me, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, like, what just happened?" You know? So, yeah, so I really appreciate you being so open and honest and sharing that in your book. I would love to talk about your journey to law school. Because even that was, like, mind-blowing to me. I was just like, "This woman is just like" it was just, like, one thing after another.
It
So
was
how
one thing
yeah.
after another.
Oh my goodness.
Um, so yes, and it all happened really fast too, because when I graduated my undergrad, I had finished it so quickly. I had done, you know, I got started my university, journey, if you will, and at the point after my first semester when I knew I wanted to go to law school, I was like, okay, this is a path I'm going to go on. Let me just crank it out like a
Yeah.
checklist. Let me just finish what I need to finish. So I took like wintermester classes. I took Maymester classes. I took very heavy summer classes, just to be able to knock out what I needed to knock out because all in all, I had a plan to finish my degrees, take the LSAT and get into school. And everything was just happening very fast. And I was working, odd end jobs here and there in order to have, extra side income and whatnot. And when I decided my transition from undergrad to law school, I was like, okay, I'm way too young. I need to get a little bit more life experience. I'm going to take a year off. So I decided with intention for the year of 2000 to 2001 to apply for law school for 2001. So I had already taken my LSAT in June and I was already making applications. And it was very interesting how it all came out, but I did literally get the phone call or got the phone call that changed my life from the career, not the career, the administrator from St. Thomas. I still remember his name. It was Drew. And he called me and he was like, we have a brand new spring program that we are developing at our law school. We are a very diverse law school and we got all of your applications and whatnot. And we would like to offer you to start in January of 2001. And I did not do very well on the LSAT, but I had a very high GPA. And, with my graduation from high school early, college early, my personal statement, my other experiences, I knew I had a shot, but I wasn't the most wanted law
Mhm.
student, right? I couldn't, I had to be, calculated about this.
Mhm.
So, he called me and at that moment it was like if you don't accept this you may not get in spring in the fall, excuse me, of 2001.
Hi, Heidi here. Thank you so much for listening and supporting my podcast, but most importantly, the mission. If you would like to further support this podcast, there are a few ways you can do that. You can sign up for the newsletter. You'll receive the episodes straight to your inbox every time they drop. The link is in the show notes and the show description. You can subscribe to the podcast YouTube channel. And lastly, you can donate money. That link is also in the show notes and show description. If you would like to sponsor an episode or promote your business on this show, send me an email at Heidi@HeidiDelacruz.com. Thank you and enjoy the rest of the episode.
So I really deliberated on it. And at that moment, I was like, I have no choice. I have to get in this program because this will be my only opportunity.
Yeah.
So within a matter of a couple of weeks, I literally packed everything to my car. I had never been to Miami before. Which
Oh,
looking
man.
back, looking back, regardless if it would have ever changed anything, but I will never move to a city without visiting the city
But
first.
first, that's funny. Yeah,
I had
Miami's a whole
never
different
been
story.
I had never been to South Florida. My knowledge of Miami was very limited. I had only studied Miami because the Elian Gonzalez crisis had just occurred, about a year before it was, with all of that and with the protests that were happening with the Cuban and Cuban Americans. But I was not familiar with the culture here at all. And I decided to just pack up my car and move here. And we were only about 30 students in that spring program. And not
Wow.
everybody made it throughout the semester. People dropped out or people didn't pass their courses. So for me, it was like, you start this program, they're telling you you're going to graduate in 2.5 years. That was the other thing, because
Wow.
you're going to do summer and you're going to graduate with the people who started in fall of 2000.
Mm.
So I was like, I have to get on this now. And I told my employer at the time I was actually working at an immigration law firm. I was like, this is my chance to go. And then that was it. Got everything in my car and moved over here.
So your schooling in general has all been like accelerated because you graduated high
Very
school
accelerated.
early.
Yes.
Yeah, and then your undergrad was early, and then now law school was like, okay, this is your chance, and you got to finish it in 2.5 years. And it's just like,
I
my
mean,
goodness.
if you counted, I did everything in 5.5 years
Wow.
because my
Wow.
undergrad was only 3 and
Yeah.
my law school was 2.5.
So everything was 5. Oh my goodness, I just got chills with that because it takes a lot longer than that. Oh my gosh. And so then also you also share even like once you went to law school, you passed, you passed your bar, which you shared about your study, like all you did was study, sleep, eat, and repeat, right? Like that's what you
That was
did.
it.
You passed your bar, but then even trying to get your foot in the door was another struggle for you.
Yeah, that was challenging because,
Yeah.
I was also still continuously visibly Muslim,
Yeah.
and the population down here was not very accepting to that, especially the incidences of 9/11 had happened,
Yeah.
and that was just a whole unexpected, um situation to have to deal with. Definitely trying to find a foot in with an employer to gain experience was hard.
Mhm.
So I was shadowing and working, doing contract work with other attorneys almost for free, basically, if not for pennies. But I was also working as a telemarketer at AT&T while I was an attorney. And I remember being at the interview and the lady was like, "You're a lawyer, you're a licensed attorney. Why are you here?" And I go,
Mhm.
"Because I cannot find a job and I need a schedule where I can work at night to make money to then be a lawyer during the day." And that's what I did. I was working graveyard there and then would go home for a few hours and then wake up and then start my, project on either calling attorneys, trying to see if I can get contract work, making connections, meeting people, doing, as they like to say, hustling as much as I could
Yeah.
to be able to get my foot in the door, but then working as a you know, what was I think it was the AT&T or America Visa card generator
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
in the
Yeah.
in the nighttime so I can have like some kind of money coming in. But to me, I just did what I had to do.
Yep.
Like it wasn't anything for me to sit around and feel sorry for myself. It was just like these are the things that I need to do to get to where I need to be at.
Yeah.
So there the only thing that could hold me back at that moment is myself.
Mm.
So I'm not going to allow myself to be the one to hold me back. I just
Yeah.
have to keep pushing through it. And that's what I did.
Yeah, because you wrote in the book also that you knew you had that desire to help, well, with immigration, and you had also wrote about how, like, going like, your family's I think it was, your family's immigration process and asking your mom and, like, her having to go and wake up at 3 in the morning to get in line to be able to talk. I was like, "Oh my," it's just crazy to think about how it was back then versus how it is now and the things that people had to do to be able to get access and be able to talk to
Yeah,
somebody. And so you knew from there that you wanted to help people. And so like that was your drive. Like this is my goal and I'm
definitely.
gonna, get there any means necessary. So you share about your struggle getting your foot in the door and then you realize like it would be best for you to like start your own firm. But even before you got to the firm that you have now, like it was still even another struggle.
Yes. I mean, the
With your
firm that
first
I
yeah.
have now is definitely not the firm that I had started with. The firm that I had
Yes.
started with was a firm that allowed me to really accept more of the contract work, give me a little bit of flexibility when it came to being able to work, nights at the job at the other job, and then myself to be able to get some type of work within the community. I was also volunteering a lot at Catholic charities because I needed to get some experience in
Yeah.
court. I needed to feel comfortable going to court. That's something that you learn. You're just not born with knowing how to
Yeah.
go in front of an immigration judge. Now, if somebody's not going to necessarily hire me to go do that, if I make myself available to go and volunteer to do that, then they'll give me an opportunity because I have a license. So
Yeah.
I went to another non for profit called Steps in the Right Direction. They were doing grants with immigrants in the community. Catholic Charities was doing it. I made a lot of solid connections with people in the community, just making myself available and exposing myself to being able to get that experience. But I got to a point where the cases were becoming very complicated, and I did not want my I wanted to be realistic with myself and with my knowledge of what I knew, that I knew I had to kind of take a step back and be in a more structured environment so that I can really learn rather than just trying to, let's say, wing it. This is not an area of law where you can wing it. You need to know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And while I had foundational experience here and there, I needed to get more experience from people who had been through, had been practicing law for longer than I had, really.
Yeah.
So after 11 months, I said, let me go back I could not find a job here. So I said, let me reach out to the law firm that I was a legal assistant in before
Mm.
I went in. And, um, coincidentally, one of the partners was pregnant and she was leaving on maternity leave. So he was like, yes, you can come back. So I went back there now as an attorney, and I really learned a lot from him. He worked me hard.
Yeah.
In Dallas, we don't have like an asylum office. The asylum office is in Houston. So
Mm.
I would if you know anything about North Dallas, I would have to drive, for example, like from Arlington, where I was living, to Dallas, which was like a 45-minute drive. I would go to work, and the office was next to an airport called Love Field. And I had such a crappy car back then. I would borrow my boss's car. He had a Lincoln Navigator. I would take it to the airport. I would fly to either San Antonio field office or the Houston asylum office, do the interview, and then fly back
Fly back.
same day, and then go back to the office and work. That was my
Wow.
day. That was my entire day.
Oh my gosh. That is a
Yes.
lot. Oh my
Yes.
goodness.
And
And,
that's how you learn. You
yeah,
just keep your head down and you do what you gotta do. And of course, he guided me and he helped me, but he trusted me and he exposed me to cases that, I was able to really understand with his guidance and learn how to do it.
yeah.
And, after, several months working for him, I came back to Miami again. Like, life is very funny. I came back to Miami because a previous client was like, "Please, I want you to come with me to my citizenship interview."
Mm.
And I said, "Okay," I made arrangements. And, while at that interview, I met my now ex-husband
Okay. Yes. Okay.
at a Starbucks. Randomly there
Gotcha.
with my friend, and he was there with his friend, and his friend knew my friend, and they were
Oh,
like, "Oh,
wow.
hey, how are you?" And then he's like, "Hey, oh, you're an immigration attorney? I'm on my H-1B." I was like,
Oh,
"Oh, okay." And then
yeah.
that's how things started.
That's how things
So
happen. Oh
then
my
I ended
gosh.
up moving back. That's why, that's how what drew me back to Florida.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, you do mention you did write about your first marriage in the book, and then your son, and taking your son to court
Oh,
too. I
yes.
was like,
He's been with me to immigration interviews. I've put him in, yes, it's funny. He's very well aware of the immigration system.
oh, I bet. I bet. Oh my goodness. And I like that I appreciated that you said that you really wanted to know the process and everything and get knowledge and experience, because this is not a type of law that you can just wing, And I've doing this podcast, I've heard countless of stories of people who unfortunately had, bad attorneys or didn't know what they were doing and filed things incorrectly, and processes gets messed up, and the next thing you know, they have a deportation order for them and they have no idea why. It's like, we filed the paperwork, we did what the attorney told us, and they were misguided, unfortunately, or people who pretend to be attorneys and they're just, scamming people left and right. So it is very important to know, what immigration attorney, people are hiring and things like that. So I definitely appreciate that you were like, no, I need to know the process. I need to know
Yeah.
what's going on.
It's kind of mind baffling when you think about it. And, the only occupation that really most people compare attorneys to are doctors, right?
Mm,
And when you in the medical world, when you complete your medical degree, you have to go through a residency program.
mhm,
You have to go through that program so you know what you're doing.
mhm.
Because just sitting there and reading it from the textbook is not the same when you're called in for a 3, 4, 5 year residency program where you're learning how to practice medicine.
Yeah.
Sadly, in law, we don't have that. So what happens is you get out as like I did at the age of 22 with a bar and a license, and you may feel like you're on top of the world, but you don't have that experience. You have not gone through the ringer yet
Yeah.
to take on such cases where people are depending on you to be a lawyer because you are,
Mhm.
but you just don't have it because we may have an intern program or a clerk program, but that's not the same. We need to have within the area of law a type of residency program where lawyers are humbled,
Mm,
okay?
mhm.
And they are given that experience so that they can properly represent people.
Yeah. Oh, that is true.
But,
That is true.
you know, who am I?
Oh my goodness. So now you have a firm, right? A nice big firm. You employ
Right. So
several.
after I got like
Yeah.
a solid 6 years of experience,
Okay.
which I learned everything. I did deportation, I did family, I went to an employment boutique, I learned how to do perms, I learned how to do I kept my head down. I honestly was not negotiating for monies. I would take on what was ever coming to me, and I wanted to figure things out and learn how to do things.
Yeah.
Um, and then at that point, I was like, okay, now I'm ready to go out again. And that's when I did. So in September of 2009, I opened up my second law firm, I guess. And I came at it as a different approach. I did not want to come at it as my name. A lot of law firms have their name, which is
Yeah, they
fine,
do. Yeah.
but I never wanted it to be just about me. So I came up, being in Florida with Florida Immigration Law Council, because we service people in Florida at the time, thinking, yes, you can represent people in all 50 states, but the traveling is exhausting.
Yeah.
I have traveled before. I've traveled to California, New York. I, I could not brand myself as a national firm, because of all the traveling that's required for immigration, even though the filings are go to a central filing location. And with being in Florida and being able to share that, I still was able to get national clients and still being able to make those moves, but it wasn't a primary for me. I wanted to kind of just focus in because how diverse Florida is.
Yeah.
Really wasn't until COVID that when COVID happened, the immigration court and USCIS allowed now for telephonic and virtual appearances.
Okay. Yeah, because everything had
And
to be
with
in person. Yeah.
with that opportunity, I jumped on it
Mm.
and I changed the name and I trademarked it and I did a whole brand change to U.S. Immigration Law Council because now I have court hearings in Connecticut, New York, Chicago, California, and I can do them all WebEx.
Wow.
I can have USCIS interviews all over the US and I can send in my notice and do it telephonically.
Is this still that way? Or
Yeah.
is it still okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Because at that point, there's no going back. Like
Mm,
not just about me, like the agency will
yeah,
not go back. I
okay.
mean, imagine having to go in person for a 5-minute hearing when I just have to log on and do the
Yeah.
hearing 5 minutes on my computer and I'm done with it.
Has this helped speed up the process in any way, or is it because I know there's a big backlog in court cases and everything. Has this helped in any way or not really?
Well, with the USCIS part, I wouldn't say that it helped with the backlog because
Okay.
it's just allowing somebody to appear telephonically. But with the court, I would say that still, I don't think that it really was a benefit more for the agency, not for the respondents, but I
Oh,
wouldn't say that it really helped with the backlog because then as COVID was happening and they were allowing this, you're having hundreds of thousands of people coming to the US.
yeah. Yeah.
So there was no offset.
Gotcha.
They were not allowed to breathe
Yeah.
because they just got thrown in so many cases.
Yeah.
And now we are in an exorbitant amount of cases pending that is just unfathomable.
It's overwhelming, like, just
Yes.
the amount of cases and work that there is out there in the immigration space, and, oh, man. I myself thought about being an attorney. I actually took
Mhm.
my LSAT in 2021.
Okay.
But I was finishing my master's, and my cousin who went through law school, he was like, "You can't do both." He was like, "You can't study for your LSAT and do your master's." And so he was trying to help me and ask me like, "Oh, how are you doing on your practice tests?" And then so I was saying, he was like, "Yeah, that's probably what you're gonna get." So he was like, "You're either gonna have to go back after you finish your master's," but I started this podcast, and so this is what I've been doing since then. And so I've had that nudge every year once in a while to like go and become an immigration attorney. But I really enjoyed this, honestly, just sharing the stories of immigrants, learning myself the process, learning from people's stories, and then from immigration attorneys. I absolutely love interviewing immigration attorneys because usually they're immigrants themselves or they're children of immigrants and they were involved in, the process very young, and then that like sparked that that journey to become an immigration attorney and help people who were either in their shoes or their parents' shoes or their family shoes. And yeah, so this is I feel like this is my contributing part to the immigration process. What I want to ask, what is one common misconception about immigration that you hear and you would like to clear up?
Well, I've actually done, I guess, a little bit skits on this, but the
Mm,
misconception has to do with more of the actual process where people don't understand that the filling out the forms are actually, in a way, legal documents that can be used against them. They don't understand that the process, this is an actual legal process. It's not just trying to get some type of benefit. And that's the part that they don't I think is very much diluted when it comes to immigration because of the misconception, if you will, of you just have to fill out this form or you just have to send in that document. But what is the purpose behind what you're doing and what is the information that you're filling out on this form? And from my point of view, in my practice, we are very thorough when it comes to completing forms and information and presenting the case to the officer. And there's a disconnect between realizing that you are presenting an actual case. You
yeah.
are asking for this legal process to benefit you. You're not just whimsically filling out something and seeing if it's going to work or not.
Yeah.
So that's something that I have to keep on reminding people about, because from other attorneys, from paralegals, or from notarios, they diminish the value of what it is that they're doing.
Mm.
And they just classify this as filling out forms. And that's the part that, okay, you're going to continue diminishing it. The person's going to have a legal problem. You're going to have to come to me to fix it. And it's either not going to be fixable, or you're going to get yourself in a really bad situation. Why? Because you undervalued what it was that you were doing.
So not just anybody can fill out these immigration forms.
You have to understand what is the purpose of what you're doing.
Mm.
And that's the part that is lost,
Mm.
because they want the easy 300, $500 to fill this out. But you don't realize that this stays in your file. This becomes part of your history. And at some point, it's going to be used against you. What have you done?
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Thank you for sharing that, because I at one point was helping translate virtually. There was an influx of immigrants going into, I think it was Kansas, and there's a nonprofit organization there that was helping them, get situated and helping them find housing and employment and everything. But it was an influx of Venezuelan immigrants, so I was helping translate, trying to help them, what is the process when your rent is due and all of that. And so the guy was saying that they needed help filling out forms or something like that. And I don't remember if it was like legal forms or anything like that. And then I remember reaching out to an attorney friend, and she was like, "Okay, well, you got to be careful, because not everybody, knows how to fill those out, and not everybody can fill those out, because." And then now you explained it. It's like it's a legal process. And it can be used against you. So that is,
Absolutely.
yeah. So thank you for sharing that. Um, Okay, so your social media presence, I want to get
Yeah.
into that, because that's how I found you. I found you on Instagram, and I will say I don't normally pitch to immigration attorneys via comments, but you are very active in your comments. And so I was like, okay, she's engaged with her audience. She responds, and sometimes your responses are hilarious, I will say. So that's how I pitch to you, which I don't normally do, but I appreciate how engaged you are in your comments with your audience and everything. So how was that to be able to put yourself out there, share, the processing, share, some stories of, clients? Like how was that for you to get started with social media like that?
Well, as I mentioned in my book, definitely my husband now, he
Yeah.
was the biggest supporter of me. I would share with him kind of what my day would be like, and he would be like, "You need to tell people what you're doing."
Mm.
And there is a lot of negativity associated with immigration for whatever reason.
Yes.
It's there.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
So back in 2017, he was encouraging me to just talk about topics, explain things, and when you are in your day-to-day activities, video what it is that you're doing. Whether
Mm.
you're at court, whether you're at an immigration interview, whether you're at an ICE office, whatever it is. And we are our biggest critic, right?
Mhm.
How we
Yes.
look, how our voice sounds, how we speak, how we have like crooked eye, a lisp,
Yeah.
yellow teeth, whatever it is. We are our biggest critic. And after realizing that nobody likes how they look or sound on
Yeah.
social media, I realized I am never going to make myself happy. So I have to accept who it is that I am, because this is, how I was created. And other than some aesthetics, whether it's lipstick or trying to make sure my hair doesn't look like crazy, I do have experience and I do have stories that I can share. So put that to the side and focus on what it is that you want people to know about what is going on. aside from that, I'm naturally a very funny person. I just have always been. I like to tell jokes. I pick on things. I'm
Yeah.
very like low key sarcastic. I never mean to be condescending or disrespectful,
Yeah.
but I have expressions that I wear on my face, and I like to make fun of things and be funny because I'm a funny person.
Yeah.
So I incorporated my experience into funny skits.
Yeah.
And every single skit that I have done, believe it or not, has transpired from a true story. These are things
Mm.
that have happened to me where I will be sitting in a consultation and I will be blatantly asked if I know somebody who will marry them for $30,000, or I will
Oh.
blatantly be asked that this is my spouse and this is my girlfriend, and I will blatantly be have these types of situations where I have to then navigate, obviously, ethics, professionalism, the
Yeah.
law, and all of that come to play. But if I can poke fun of it because I am a funny person and it is funny, at least it is for me because I'm dealing
Yeah.
with it and that's how I cope with it, then I just roll with the punches with it.
Yeah.
So I created the social media as education, informative. Then it turned into adding a bit of humor and not being so rigid because I'm not a
Yeah.
rigid person. I like to come on and explain, but there's a lot more to me than just that.
Mhm.
So I like to listen to different types of music or to dance or to show off what I have going on in terms of my staff or my approvals. I love to always share my approvals because I think that that brings a lot of hope and positivity. And
Yeah.
I'm always shocked when people come at me in terms of their misconception of me facilitating something that I shouldn't, where I have to explain to them that I'm an attorney and actually everybody did this the legal way.
Yes. Yes.
Like they're not registering that.
Yeah.
I didn't pull the green card from my closet.
Mm.
I understand that they may have a crime or they may have committed a fraud or they may have done something that you wouldn't have done. But hey, if the law allows for it, then I will defend them according to the law. And if
Yeah.
we're successful, then I'm going to celebrate that success.
Yeah.
So I get a lot of heat for that, but I have to, you know, push it to the side because me explaining it over and over and over again, at the end of the day, they're not even my clients, so I don't even really care.
Yeah, they're just trolls on the internet. So I was gonna
Yes.
ask, because obviously I share about immigration and I share the stories. I haven't gotten a lot of negative comments. I know they'll be coming, they'll be out there, but I have received, a few here and there, and I don't respond. I just kind of just let them sit there. So is that how you deal also with like the negativity that may come with what you share?
So it depends. I'm
Okay.
not, yes, of course, depending on people who curse and threaten me, of course, I block and delete.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
If people really are trying to understand, they really want to know, can this be done or why you're doing this? I
Mhm.
will explain it to them in a very simple way for them to understand it.
Yeah.
Because there are people who think that you should not get a benefit if you've committed a crime. Well, sorry, because you can, depending on what your
Yeah.
crime is. If you don't
Yeah.
like it, go change the law. And that's what I say. The law allows for it. And so I'm going to defend it according to the law. If you don't like it, go change the law. That's not my problem. I'm not a legislature.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not somebody who changes the law. I'm somebody who advocates for the law.
Yeah.
So it really depends on what the comment is, what the tone is, and who the person is, of course. But I do have people who are who do follow me on both platforms who I would say are probably against immigration in general, and they just want to know what I'm doing and what
Mhm.
is going on with it. And they see it from a different perspective because I don't I don't really go, or I'm not very familiar with what other immigration attorneys do,
Mhm.
but from what people who I have consults with and my clients tell me is that it's very different than what other immigration attorneys do in terms of
Okay.
social media.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that I do have people who just follow, even though they may not agree with what I'm doing, but they still want to keep an eye out on me.
Gotcha. Yeah, I do follow a few immigration attorneys just because I interview them and I'm in this space. And so I will say what did stand out from you from the other ones that I follow is just like I guess the funniness, like the skits and everything that you do, and you I want to say you keep it real. Not saying that the other ones don't, but it's just like you're in this space and you are working this, you know what's going on, and so it's like if something comes out that's a misconception or whatever, it's like it doesn't matter who it is or what's going on. Like this is the truth, whether you like it or not, and that's just how I feel like you approach it. And yeah, and so I was right before, not right before, but a few days before this interview, you had posted a skit about how your client sent you your OnlyFans client sent you the work pictures versus instead of the family pictures. And I showed my husband, I was like, look, this is the attorney I'm going to interview in a few days. But I just love how you can make light
But
of
that
it.
was my legitimate reaction when my paralegal told me. She was
Mhm.
like, "You won't believe what folder I got for the evidence." I go, "What?" And she shouldn't, and I'm like, "Oh my god.
Oh no, yeah.
How
And
do you unsee that? How do you
so
unsee that?"
I was thinking, so I wanted to ask, like, is this legit? Like, are these skits like legit? Because, but then you said yes, and I'm just like, oh, that is crazy. That
It
is
is. No, no,
crazy.
no, yeah. They're all I mean, I may be, I may have creativity when it comes to comedy, but I'm not
Yeah.
creative to create the content.
That
You understand what I
that's the
mean?
thing. And then you wrote in the comments like, I can't make this stuff up. And I'm like, I told my husband, I was like, baby, this is legit. Like this legit happened. Oh my goodness. But I appreciate your time, what you do, obviously, the way that you are approaching immigration and social media and things like that. I saw recently, like you said, you do get like backlash and stuff. So I remember also watching I think it was a Trump interview where he was talking about that he wanted to make changes for DACA, and
Yeah.
you were highlighting that,
Yeah.
and you were flooded with negative comments.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, if he wants to do something good for immigration, let's see what's going to happen. Let's
Right.
take his word for it. Let's see if it's actually going to get done. Because yes, we know that back he had talked about like, taking away
Right.
the program, but if he's changing his tune and it's
Right.
for good, let's see what's going to happen. So I saw that you were getting a lot of backlash and negative comments about that. So that's why I was like asking, like, how do you approach the negativity and things?
Yeah. Generally I don't really respond too much to it, but it was a bit disheartening for people to come and, attack the messenger, right? Again, I'm
Yeah.
not the legislator. I'm not the one creating it, but I'm very open and I try to be very positive and I try to be open to different opportunities that can happen because
Yes.
if we are so close-minded in it, then okay, everybody go live in the basement for the next 4 years and
Mhm.
be done with it. And then you're going to continue to live in this cycle of disparity and
Yeah.
depression because nobody wants to live like that. But if we're open to the changes that may occur for this, why can't we uh, embrace them? And he said it in his own interview, all the positive things about DACA recipients. He's the one who said it. So let's take it for what it is. It doesn't mean I support this person versus that person, but I
Correct.
do support him or a program coming to effect that will help those people. Why not?
Exactly. Yeah. It just reminded me of when Kim Kardashian was advocating for the first, I think, First Step Act or something like that. Like she was trying to get people out of jail, and he was the president at the time. So she had to go to the White House to advocate for this, and they got it passed. And so, like, she was getting backlash for that. But it's like she mentioned, like, if anybody else would have been president, I still would have gone to the White House, still advocated. It just happened that he was president at the time. So it was just like, like if you're advocating for something, it doesn't matter who's in the White House. You still have to advocate for that, whatever it is that you're advocating it. So we're in the immigration space. We're going to advocate if it's a Republican president, if it's a Democratic president, we have to advocate for our people. And if something positive does come out of that administration, then we have to celebrate it, like, because it's a win for the immigration community. So again, I appreciate your honesty. I appreciate how open you are with your social media clients, just the processes, everything that is going on. My last question that I love asking my guests is, what does the American dream mean to you?
Oh, well, the American dream is in my opinion, is when I have the client have the best success that they can for their situation.
Mhm.
So whether or not it is being with their family, having the opportunity here to be able to work and provide for them, because at the end of the day, I do ask a lot of detailed questions when it comes to my consultations and my clients, and I ask them, "Why are you here? Why did you leave your country? Why didn't you go back when you knew that you were supposed to? Why did you make that journey here?" And aside from, you know, other reasons other than, let's say, political reasons or reasons of that are related to fear, people want to be in this country because they want to contribute, they share the values of this country, and they want to have a better opportunity for themselves and for their families.
Mhm.
And when I see the success of a client being able to fulfill those dreams that they have, to me, that is the American dream. Not everybody is going to have the exact same journey, but at the end of the day, if I'm here to help them go through that journey, for me, that is my purpose of what it is that I do. I have 5 core values that I live by in my law firm that we strive for, and being able to ultimately provide a client-centric immigration solution law firm for them is what comprises everything.
Yeah, yeah. And you working with immigrants themselves, me interviewing them, that word opportunity, that's the common thread. It's like they are here for the opportunities that this country provides that other countries don't provide. And they're here to work, they're here to work hard, and they're here to
Yeah.
just provide for their family. That's literally what it boils down to. So, thank you for the work you're doing. Thank you for helping immigrants achieve their American dream and also provide those opportunities to them. And thank you so much for this.
Definitely. Oh, no, you're welcome. Thank you so much for having me. I enjoyed sharing my story with you. Thank you so much.
Perfect. And if anyone is not following, I will include your links to Instagram
Thank
and
you.
TikTok in the
Thank
show
you.
notes and show description. And thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you for listening to Mami Podcast.